Let me start from my left in no particular order. Ladies and gentlemen, Chidima. You people didn't clap and shout like this when they called me this morning, but it's okay. It's all right. Ladies and gentlemen, Adora. Ladies and gentlemen, I have not said his name now. This partiality. Our very own Femi Jacobs. Ladies and gentlemen, Adiolu Adefarasin. Ladies and what's that? What's this? You people doing worship, you didn't shout like this. Wow. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, Banky W. All right. As you can see, they're all very excited to... Wow. This is encouraging. God help you after they leave. You people don't shout in the next session. It's all good. It's all right. So, wow. So the reason why it's enough now, like I said earlier, I wanted you guys to, if you had any questions, just write it. Oh, some have already passed them forward. So the whole point of this is we wanted to, a lot of you, in fact, all of you are in the public eye. All of you are well known, succeeding in your fields. And I guess the whole point of this panel is to discuss how it is you function in your field to be great at what you do and balance that with your faith, your Christian faith. Let me start, because you're right next to me, Chidima. Everybody knows who you are. You came into the limelight singing, and you've had many hits. I'm sure a lot of people know your songs. For you, how do you, being in the limelight with, the pressure to succeed and being an artist, how do you balance that with your Christian faith? How's that been for you?
Okay. Hello, everybody.
Sorry, so someone asked if you were single, and I said you were single. I know that you are searching. So are you single and searching, or are you single?
I'm single.
Not searching.
I'm just single.
Just single.
Yeah.
Shoot your shots 2019. Start praying. Yeah.
Okay. Well, for me, I was confused because I didn't know how the world was going to perceive me. I didn't know how the world was going to receive me. Because, to date, yes, I still sing in the choir, and that's one thing that gives me so much joy. Like, when I'm doing that, nothing else matters, I'm just so fulfilled when I'm on the altar. So I didn't know how to go about, doing secular music and all of that. But then I decided to try, I started to get a lot of reviews from people. Oh, she doesn't love God. Oh, we thought this. Oh, we thought that. Because some people actually thought I was going to come out doing gospel. So it was a lot of, oh, but we thought she. So it was kind of difficult for me. But then I had to have this conversation with God personally, because at the end of the day, it's between me and God, so it doesn't matter what anybody thinks. So I had to do that with God, and I'm like, this is what I want to do, but then I don't want to move out of the faith. I don't want to forget you, So it happened that, it was going on smoothly, and there's one thing that actually gets me confused. Like, there was a song I released, was it last month, called Holy. And most of the comments that I got was, oh, welcome back home. Oh, welcome back home. Yes, this is what you've been called to do. You know? So I'm like, it doesn't, that I do secular music doesn't mean that I've stopped loving God. That is what I do for a living. It's different from my relationship with God. You know, that has not changed. So it is God that has helped me, because at the end of the day, it is not easy at all. It is not easy. But then it is God that has helped me, you know, from year to year. It's not by my power, and it's not easy at all. Yeah.
Wonderful. What I appreciate is how everybody here, they're keeping it real, and it's amazing when you get this kind of insight from everyone sitting here. So let me go to you, Adora. I know that Adora is she's one of the coolest people I know. She came last year. I'm sure the people just loved her session. I was reading one of the questions. Someone said, Adora, please, can you do a spoken word piece here now, please? That's not the kind of question we're asking you to ask, but you know, a lot of times, in terms of when it comes to conversations of business or public relations or branding your company and what you do, you're like that. You're like the puppet master. You're the person that pulls all the strings behind, and people see things happen in front, and you're involved in a lot of things. Has there ever been a time when you've been in situations where you've been asked to do certain projects or get involved with certain people that, you know, you felt it was a contradiction with your faith? And if that has happened, how have you handled those situations? And how do you, on a daily, doing what you do, balance that with your faith?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here again. That's a brilliant question, because really when you play in the brand space, you are continuously bombarded with different types of clients, right? And one of the things that, I guess for me, the reason why it's sort of a little bit easier to decide who we work with is because I have a team that is completely aligned with my values, right? So that has really helped. So with my partnership, I made sure that I was very specific about making sure that I was working with people who understand what our faith is, and are very particular about making sure that whatever work that we do is in alignment with that. Now, that being said, I also believe that, you know, God called us to the world, not necessarily just to the church. And so there will be moments where you are put in situations that you know that your job here is to bring light to that situation, right? And I truly believe that just being able to talk to God and discern, right, what work you should take versus what work you shouldn't take has become very important for me, right? And so in recent times, maybe about a month or two ago, we were approached by a client to do some work that, you know, wasn't in alignment with what we're about. And I think I will tell the story exactly how it happened, right? So we had this work, and I remember saying to Akinlabi, who's my business partner who's here, that, you know what, I don't think that we should do this because it's not in alignment with who we are. And I wouldn't go out. I believe that God is a verb, right? God is an action word. He's not a thing or a noun. It's a verb. And so I said to myself, like, if this went out, right? And I mean, is this work we would be proud putting out? And that's how I sort of look at it. Is this work that is in alignment with who we are? But also, if I do this work and people are talking about how amazing it is, will I feel comfortable, right, that I did that work? And I said to him, I don't think I'll feel comfortable. Now, the brilliant thing about it, which is why I said making sure that your partnerships, right, the people that you're working with are aligned, is he got the same message before I even got it, right? So it was, he got it, I got it, and it was easy for us to have a conversation about it and decline the work. And I always believe that, you know, sometimes we try to tell ourselves that if I miss this opportunity, it's not going to come again. But the truth about it is that, you know, if you're grounded in what God has called you to do, the opportunities will come again and again and again. There's no such thing as a missed opportunity. That's how I see it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dora. Let's move to Femi Jacob. So FJ, I've known for a very long time. You're an actor, singer, speaker, author, everything. In terms of the limelight, you've come to the limelight most particularly in your acting. You as an actor, a lot of times, being on that side now, you have the responsibility as an actor to bring characters to life. It is your job. And you can touch on that a bit more. How do you balance Femi Jacobs, the actor, and Femi Jacobs, the Christian? Does that affect the roles that you take, or is there a separation where this is professional versus, my faith, or how has that been for you, and especially when people know you, we know Femi from the church, and then we see him on the screen, how people can't separate your character from the person that you are. How have you handled that, and how do you continue to handle that, balancing your Christian faith and your work as an actor?
Good evening, everybody, and you're my family. Thank you for having me again, PJ. Thank you so much, Pastor Jimmy, for this opportunity. I struggle to answer this question, but I'm going to be as sincere and as honest as I can be. Some of the things that you deal with as an adult is most of the incomplete information you get, where people are trying to micromanage your intelligence, so they don't tell you the full facts of the situation, so you don't really get to make up your mind what it feels like. There are many layers to this question, because first of all, when I got the opportunity to act, I got it. The first opportunity to act that I got was from the church, from the Fountain of Life Church here. And I think for me, it's a manifestation of grace, because I'm not sure if I'd have known how to handle acting if I didn't, first of all, experience it in the hallowed chambers of the church, which case I knew then it was approved. Acting is an approved, or is a Christian-like field or endeavor or art. So I took that, and when I finished that, there was another opportunity to do another TV series called Tango With Me. Tango With Me is another film. And it was also by the Fountain of Life Church here. So I'm out of the mouths of 2 or 3 witnesses, a matter is established. At this time, I was already working somewhere else in the bank, and then I got my first opportunity to go on to what you might call a secular acting, whatever gig. And I took that with mixed feelings, because I was singing worship. And then it felt strange. I must be honest, it felt strange to me, as I knew that it felt strange to most of the people who attended church at that time. They were like, Brother Femi, what's going on here? And then I did tinsel, but thanks be to God, there were ordinary roles, like, being a lawyer to someone, or being a doctor, or being, one of those safe things, that didn't involve you having to handle alcohol, handle, cigarettes, kiss someone. All of those things, they feel strange. I feel strange doing them. I must be honest with you. I don't know about PJ, he has done a couple.
Shots fired.
But we're figuring it out as we're going along. Trusting our love for God. Trusting the foundation that we have, that our lives are supposed to be expressions of God's grace and Christ-likeness. But on one hand, you don't want to be, ascetic. You don't want to be so sanctified that you'll miss out on all the opportunities you might have to be a witness to somebody else or to demonstrate your gifts and your talents that God has given you. And on the other hand, you don't want people to see you as the symbol of permissiveness, if I may say, like, okay, these are the ones that are pushing the boundaries of Christianity. I don't want to have such a label. So you're constantly asking God, help me to do what I got to do and to do it glorifying you. And I think it doesn't matter whether you're a lawyer or a doctor or an evangelist or a politician or a musician or wherever it is you are. I think it's a prayer we ought to pray every day. I can't come here and say, oh, I'm balancing it where it's working out. There are days when I'm like, Eve, God, you got to help me here. And I have to cry out to God and say, no, this is not what you want me to do. So I've got to check myself here. And there are days where I feel like, oh my God, this is beautiful. This is what we're here for. The last thing I'm going to say is how God is allowing me to process this internally. I'm not sure this is the kind of answer you wanted me to give you. You wanted me to give you the answer, like, oh no, God is good. We're working it out. It's so great. No, it's a struggle. And just like it will be a struggle for you if you're a doctor as well, a lawyer, keeping the values, which is the last thing I want to say now. It is not a matter of what you do per se. It is a matter of why you're doing it. In where God works with us, and I think where our witness stands, is he purifies our desires so that we're not just doing the right things, we're doing the right things for the right reasons. If you are out there because you know that that field, that area needs a witness of Christ to be there. We can't leave it all to people and say, okay, it's not our game. We got to be there. Just like programmers need Jesus. Every field needs Jesus. Politicians need examples of believers who can come into the field and do it without getting their clothes soiled. And I think that's when God gets the glory. It is not when we stay away from the fire, but when we step into the fire by the power of the Holy Spirit.
Very well said. Like I said, the people on this panel will keep it real. We've selected them for a particular reason because they will give you the unfiltered truth as they see it and not trying to form, right? And say, amen, amen, God is good. No. Right? And I think from their openness, you can get a lot of insight, yeah? And then let's go to Pastor Adiolu Adefarsin. So, Adiolu, yours is an interesting one. I've known you, for a very long time since we were kids as well. I remember when you were moving back and you were very much wanting to get into acting. And you got into acting and did a couple big movies. And then, I don't know, with the call, if you always knew the call was there or it came nowhere, all of a sudden the Lord snatches you. And for me, it was a bit different because I was already a pastor before I entered acting. Us were the renegades, the ones that Femi spoke about, that they're saying these ones are just pushing the bounds. But you were an actor, and while you had started acting, you became an ordained pastor. So how has that been for you in terms of starting as an actor, now having a pastor? Is there an added responsibility you feel? Has that affected you as an actor or the things that you do? How are you balancing the two? And what has that experience been so far?
What has it been like? I think if you ask me that question a day after I got ordained, I'd have been like, no, it doesn't change anything now. I'm still me. Like, I loved God before, so what's the difference? Like, I was still making decisions based on a love relationship with God. And I always used to define it, so when I was acting, that, okay, even before I really cared for God, I was already like, my father's son, so I have to respect my dad anyway. So films I will do will be based on not trying to ruin my father's name. And so I always made decisions that I thought kind of were in a level of alignment. So I just felt like no matter what, like either way I'm making kind of spirit-led decisions, I'm doing things that are decent. And I decided very early what kind of films I thought I was willing and not willing to do. And then I came back, did a few films, and nothing really pushed me to really challenge my moral values anyway. And then I did a film called The Eve. And again, I thought I was fine. Like I had to kiss and I had to do, and I was like, okay, that's all right. Like one of my biggest justifications had always been the church are not influencing or having impact on people's lives because they're avoiding things that are real life issues.
Right.
And if you don't talk and handle real life issues, then the world are going to be defining it for you. And either way, people are going to be affected negatively. So the church and people who believe in God need to be taking a better stance and be able to talk about these issues and pretend they don't exist. So I justified the characters like, yeah, that's fine. He's able to do this. He's also struggling. He's a Christian. He's struggling with celibacy. Like, celibacy is a struggle. Like, anybody got to lie to you about it. Like, it's a struggle. So why not handle it and talk about it? So I felt like I was fine doing the film. And then I went to the premiere, and it was my first lead role, so I took my dad with me. Now, watching the film with my dad sat next to me made me completely reassess whether I thought the film was okay to do or not. Because I was like, okay, the kissing scenes here, that's fine. You get to this scene where I have to pick someone up and throw her on the bed, and all of a sudden my dad is very next to me, and you just feel it a lot more. And I was like, was that right? Am I sure? But I always feel like, I feel like the decision of the films that I made, I was comfortable with them then until that day kind of challenged it. My dad never said anything, but my mom wasn't in the country and she would have otherwise come. And so she wanted to watch it, and it was on DSTV, so they recorded it, and she was going to watch it. She was going to invite people. My dad was just like, you better watch it too before you go and see what's doing in the film, before you guys start showing all these people. And so it started really making me think. And then I got ordained, and I was like, nothing's going to change. Like, either way, I've always been making it, and I've always justified the decision I've made, and I've always felt I'm good with God. Like, I'm not going to be one of those people who's bothering themselves what everyone is saying, because people will always talk. And this last year, I'm not lie, has been a struggle. Because since I became a pastor, like, acting has just... I ran to a director that I worked with recently, and he was like, oh, I heard you retired. I was like, no. No, I'm still an actor. And so it just changes, and it changes everyone's perspective so quickly. The moment they hear you're a pastor, now I was like, so obviously we can't call him for this, we can't call him for that, we can't call him for this. And so you have to start really reassessing. And for me, I held on to that so much as a definition of what ministry was for me, in that God was calling me to be a light in the entertainment industry, in that you can be normal and be cool and still love God. And so when I was acting a lot less, work just wasn't coming, I was like, so I'm no longer going to be that guy. I'm just going to be pastor. Which is going to be like every other pastor who's a pastor. Is just stressful and annoying. And so that has been a struggle in and of itself. But God has been pulling me to really try and show me what it is that he's calling me to do. So whether acting dries up and doesn't happen as much as it did, or you control the kind of work that you do, and the work I do, I feel will naturally change. What he's actually calling me to be is to be relatable. And to be able to have conversations with people, and to be able to meet people in their day-to-day lives and care what people are going through. I mean, beyond acting, the things I'm doing now are things I never imagined myself doing. You know, presenting, producing. They're not things, even being a pastor, I never ever saw it coming. But it's that God puts this burden on you for people, and I think that's just all it is. And it's just that desire to have people feel and know that I feel the struggle too, but like, you can love God and you can get through the struggle, you can get through the hard times, you can get through whatever you're going through. So I can't even tell you that I've navigated what it's like balancing being an actor and a pastor. I have not at all, but we're working on this, and we're just trusting God through the journey. and knowing that, look, no matter what, God has been coming through for me. And people will think what they think, people will say what they will say. There will be perception that things are perfect because of it, and things aren't exactly what people expect them to look like. But either way, God is carrying you. And I've been recently learning about the definition of faith from Joshua. This idea of be bold and courageous. It says, be bold and courageous, do not be afraid and do not be dismayed. And when I checked out the words that mean afraid and that were translated to afraid and dismayed, afraid was translated from the Hebrew word arat, which means do not be shocked into awe, where you stop moving. And do not be dismayed was translated from the Hebrew word chatath, which means do not be broken down. So your situation might come at you and you might never expect, you might not know. But God is saying, I've given you a vision. As long as you do not let everything that's around you stop you from moving in the direction of the vision and breaking you, it's okay. Like we have defined, and also the word prosper, because he says he will prosper you and you'll make all your ways to prosper. We define prosper by the worldly definition, which means riches. But the word prosper comes from a word that actually means to just move forward, to push forward. As long as there's forward trajectory, you're with God. And that's what I'm sticking to.
You hear the pastor in him. You hear the pastor. You know, these pastors have been making us look like, I'll just play. Appreciate Pastor DeFar. And last but definitely not least, Mr. W. So, again, I've known Mikey for a very long time. Or should I say he has known me? Because when we're playing in his house, we're young kids and, successful singer. It's like, those people that just do everything. When you say one, then businessman, singer, content creator, politician, actor. What else am I forgetting? Writer, everything, director, everything. So how have you, you came onto the limelight, music and Ebute Meta, your fans. And obviously music was a platform and you've done so much more. How do you constantly in the limelight? You are constantly in the limelight everywhere you go. People react to you, how have you handled that, being who you are and your Christian faith? How have you, should I say, balance the two? Is it something that you safeguard? Is it something that's personal? How do you feel a pressure to be a certain way because of your faith? Or how do you handle those dynamics personally, being who you are and your faith?
Good evening, beautiful people. God bless you. Thank you so much for the love, man. The love coming from the audience is incredible. Thank you guys so much. Being back here in Fountain is kind of an emotional experience for me, because some people may remember I actually started in this church. Yeah. And Pastor Tolu sent me a clip of me singing in the Grace Levites. I must have been 14 years old or something, I don't know. But it was very embarrassing, and I've warned her to never show you people. But I say that, so I've known Jimmy forever. I've known Pastor Femi forever. Actually, I've known everybody on this stage, but Jimmy and Femi I've known the longest. And I say all of that to say this. I think that my life is a testimony about a few things. Number one, that nothing can ever separate you from the love of God. All of the success, all of the grace, all of the whatever you want to call it, everything that I've done is because God has been my backbone. It's because God's grace has been sufficient. It's because even when I mess up and I don't make the best decisions, He never stops loving me. He never stops caring for me. He never stops pulling me back and positioning me. And so I'm not under any misconceptions that any of where I am today is by my effort. It's not. It's by the grace of God. I think that for me, the foundation that I had in the church, the foundation that I had in God, I started my relationship with God in the Fountain of Life Church. And that, I think, is really what has kind of kept me. Now, I'm not saying that I've made the best decision the whole time. I've definitely made some decisions that I regret. But I think very strongly that life is a journey. And I believe in the scripture that says all things work together for our good. And so even my bad decisions, even my mistakes, even my slip-ups, God has somehow orchestrated all of that to bring me to where I am today. And I believe very strongly that what He has called me for is greater than anything that I have done thus far. And so now I'm kind of just transitioning. I'm trusting God. I'm seeking His face. In terms of combining that with fame and all of that, I think, first of all, again, it's the grace of God. Secondly, it helps to remain centered. It helps to not believe the hype or to get caught up in any of the distractions that come. I'm blessed to have a very, very amazing family. You guys know my mom. My mom is a praying woman, the definition of a praying mother. So I'm blessed to have that family backbone. I'm blessed to have a support system. I think it's very important to surround yourself with people who support you, who believe in you, who will encourage you, but who will also discipline you when you go astray. And so, I don't know, man. I believe very strongly that I'm a work in progress, and I believe that God is working in me and working through me, and what He is yet going to do with me will greatly surpass anything that has happened thus far by the grace of God. And I'm just trusting in that, and I'm trusting in His calling. I'm trusting and I'm seeking His voice, and we'll see where the story goes by the grace of God.
Okay, so I have plenty questions for all of them, but I promised you that it would be interactive. Now, some of you guys have sent some questions up here, and some of them I'm not just going to read, quite frankly. Not because, no, not like that, but here's what I want to do, because there are quite a lot. So I'm going to make it, rather than read, do we want to do, if you want to ask your question, let's make you people work. Can I get ushers with mics running around? Yes, get a microphone. If you have a question, put up your hand. We'll get you a mic. Please say who your question is directed towards, and then we'll take it from there. Now, don't front, because there's no way I'm going to get through all these questions. It's no way. But maybe I can start with some. But if you have a question, just say who it's directed towards, and we'll go from there. Okay, we have one. Say really quickly. Yes, please make your questions short, straight to the point.
Hi.
Short.
My question is for Adora. So you wrote a book. Okay, so I think it's for Adora and FJ. You wrote a book recently, this thing called Purpose. And I read it, and it feels like there is a lot of transitioning to do between where you are and that place that God has called you to be. And in the process of that, there are times that you get it mixed up, you get confused, like you're just there like, okay, so I know this, where do I go? So like the bridge between who you are and who God wants you to be, like that's that purpose thing. I don't like okay. Just
that's it, Abby.
Yes, like, and for him to, because
for
they are doing a lot about purpose and finding who you are in God.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the question was, but I'll just sort of, based off of what you've said, I'll try and just shed some light. So one of the things that I deeply believe in is a lot of people talk about, your purpose being about your why, right? Which is why I feel people get confused about finding their purpose, right? And one of the things I found on my life's journey is that, your purpose really is about who's going to benefit as a result of you existing in this world, right? And I think for me, I always say to myself first that I'm a spirit in a bottle. So my human form, as far as I'm concerned, is like Banky said, there's a reason God put me in this body, right? Because my entire life is orchestrated, right? For whatever reason. So there's a reason why I'm in this body. However, my spirit is what I usually focus on nurturing, right? Now, as you start to move in alignment with your purpose, I like to look at it as, let me just use an analogy which I used in the book for everyone else. So you have a fork, right? And I call it the fork analogy. And you take this fork, it's sitting in a drawer. It doesn't know what it's meant to be doing if it's just sitting in the drawer. What usually happens is that someone picks the fork up and decides what they want to use it for. Some people will use it to eat. Some people will use it to open up a refrigerator. You know, back in the day, when your parents lock up the fridge, you just put the fork in and open it up. Another person will use it and maybe make tribal marks. The fork only finds out its use when people use it. And that's why I say that your purpose is really your who, is what did God create you to do, yes, but who's going to benefit because you exist. Now, keeping in line with that, one of the things that I've had to do throughout my journey is to just understand that I have to unlearn a lot of the programming that I've had over my entire life, because you're talking about cultural mindsets, you're talking about religious mindsets, things that are imbibed in you as a child, and just having to sort of strip myself of the layers and the layers and the layers of things that you've been programmed to sort of think and feel. And so that's sort of the first stage in the purpose journey. Now there's the other part, which now becomes your having faith in that journey, in being aligned in that purpose, but having faith in that journey that God has called you on, right? The third part, which I think is the most difficult part that a lot of people struggle with, is using your gifts, right? So you found your purpose, you've accepted, what your purpose and your gifts are, but then using the gifts. And the reason why people struggle with it is because we don't want to necessarily go through the faith without works is dead. We don't want to go through the skill sets, building the skill sets that we need in order to effectively use those gifts, right? And I guess that's where you were trying, right? Nod your head, yes? Okay. Yeah, so using those gifts. And I think for me, what has worked for me is just doing the work that I need to do in order to be able to express my gifts fully. Being disciplined, right, enough to be able to bring those gifts to the forefront to do what they're meant to do. Being able to wake up every day and put in that work. Wake up every day, putting the work day in, day out to make it, to utilize my gift effectively and efficiently, I guess. So really, purpose is a journey. It's not something you just find overnight. It's not I'm just going to find this thing and then my whole life is going to change. It's an entire journey. And I love, everybody has said this on this panel, is we're continuously just going and just knowing and trusting that God will show us every turn that we need to make. God will show us every opportunity we need to take and the ones we shouldn't touch. And that every time that we fall, like Banky said, God will raise us up and he will give us the strength to continue to move forward towards what he has called us to do. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I'm guessing.
Let me just add one or two statements to what she said, because she said everything really. Most of us worry so much about vision when we haven't yet dealt with necessity. Necessity is the first bus stop of God's discipline. When necessity is placed on you, what do you have to do now? That's much more important than what you were called or created or born to do. Those are very, very big questions. I think that you'll figure it out. All of us here, from the responses you've heard, we're still saying we're figuring it out. If you asked our Father in the Lord or Pastor Taiwo, he's going to tell you that aspects of the vision is still figuring out. Until we die, we'll keep figuring it out. because our lives are actually very complex and the details are mind-boggling. God doesn't want to give you all the details at once, but he uses two things: necessity. Look, if you have to meet your need for food, you have to feed yourself. Really, it really doesn't matter. You can do anything legitimate that you can do to make sure you feed yourself. You don't need to seek the will of God. For instance, if you're hungry, you're hungry. That question needs to be answered. So you fix that. You got to fix hunger. You got to fix financial independence. You've got to fix that. When you fix how to take care of necessary needs, then you go to financial independence, then you start talking about wealth, then you start talking about legacy. But you can't be at the point where you're still looking for what to fix your next meal and you're talking about legacy. You're going to be distracting yourself. You're a primary school student worrying about university, whatever. Stay where you are, deal with your necessity. Your necessity will lead you to something else, which is God's second tool. Your necessity will lead you to your gifts, which is what do you have? Okay? So those are the two questions you need to worry about. At any stage in your life, whether you're at the advanced stages that these guys are at or at that level, what do I need to do now? What do I have to do now? 2, what do I have now to do it? When I came into the first door of awareness for me was, Femi, you can sing, but I didn't know anything. I got born again when I was in secondary school. I couldn't feed myself. I couldn't pay my fees. But I immediately got born again. The next thing I found out was the fellowship where we were, going in school. When we were in secondary school, they needed a singer. Femi, you can sing. I need to pray to God. I just stepped out there and I started singing. And I never stopped singing 25 years afterwards. So it's just a matter of finding out what needs to be done now in my life right now. Do I need to pass GCE? Do I need to get that jam fixed? Do I need to get into the university? Do I need to graduate from this course? Those are the things that need to be done. And you have to fix your mind to make sure you do those excellently first. And then you go and worry about, what have I got? What is that is unique to me that I can use to meet my needs and to register my name in this life? I believe that's the sign.
Very well said. So this question is for Banky and Chidima. Someone recently spoke to me about secular music being of the devil. However, it is God who gave you the gift of singing and allowed you to be famous. What is your opinion on this? Do you want to, ladies first, you want to? you.
Okay, I don't understand why Bank is pushing
They say ladies
Ladies
first.
first.
Sister, let me be a gentleman. Go first.
Wow, secular music being of the devil.
Of the devil.
Yeah. I mean, God gave you the gift. So I don't think the devil gives gifts. I mean, good gifts, because singing is a good gift. So the devil would not give you a gift like that. So I don't think anything that comes from God is evil. Please don't believe that secular music is not of the devil. Like I said before, it is what I do for a living. It's what I do to earn a living. It has nothing. In as much as there are some things you would never catch me doing, right? There are some outfits you would never catch me wearing. There are some places you would never find me, But even at that, I'm here in this industry and I have to do what I have to do, So don't get it twisted. It is me trying to feed myself, trying to make a living, So I don't think doing secular music is evil. I don't think it's from the devil. Like I said before, I released a song called Holy. I got a lot of people were saying, they were talking like I'm not supposed sing about God. Like I'm not supposed to come out publicly, singing about God. Well, that is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. I'm going to be talking about God for the rest of my life. Nothing is going to change that. Nothing is going to stop that. So people will definitely, say whatever they want to say, but doing secular music is what I do for a living. It is not from the devil. Thank you.
Before Banky answers that, just to buttress what you were saying,
Yeah.
somebody asked, with your latest single titled Holy,
Yeah.
are you likely not seeing you? Wow. They wrote, let me read it the way they wrote it. Are likely not seeing you featuring in secular music anymore? Question mark. Second one. The release of the Holy single produced by Frank Edwards. Do we expect more gospel music from you? Just to buttress what
Well, like I said before, nothing is going to stop me from talking about God. Nothing is going to stop me from taking my stand when it comes to God. So I'll be singing a lot of gospel songs, a lot of it. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to be working with other people. Banky is not a gospel artist, but I'll work with Banky. I'll work with every other person. It doesn't change my stand, in God. It doesn't change. Doesn't stop my love for God, right?
Thank you. Mr. W.
Well, just piggybacking off of what Chidima said, I'll say this. I believe that God gave music to us as a gift. I believe that God gave love to us as a gift. I believe that God gave sex to us as a gift. The problem is we've kind of, and when I say we, I mean the world, we've distorted what God's vision for these things was supposed to be. Now, here's my thing. I mean, you guys know that I'm not a gospel musician. The majority of the songs, though, yeah, I've done one or two that have kind of pushed the envelope too far, that I had to knock myself on the head to come back. But I think that I don't personally see anything wrong with love songs. I don't see anything wrong with clean music. I don't see anything wrong with, and I think if you check throughout my career, I've tried to, refrain from cursing or singing about drugs or, things that are just not, clearly not of the spirit. But when I was toasting my wife, even till today, when I'm hanging out with my wife, I'm not listening to Holy, Holy, Holy when I'm trying to romance my wife. That's the truth. And so I think that there is a place for romantic music that is clean enough but allows you to express the way that you feel about another person, about the partner that God has ordained for you. And so, some people may say that, R&B or whatever is from the devil. I don't agree. I think that it can be done in a way that glorifies God, that celebrates your partner, that celebrates the women, that celebrates love in what it's supposed to be. And I think that we need more musicians, especially people that are in the limelight. Everybody here has kind of touched on it and how it's difficult trying to navigate being a Christian. And sometimes what makes it difficult is the expectations of Christians. Sometimes Christians can be the most hypocritical, judgmental people. Sometimes people read the Bible and they don't realize that they are more like the Pharisees and the Sadducees than like Jesus. Because when I read my Bible, Jesus hung out with prostitutes and corrupt government officials. Jesus put himself in the midst of them because he was supposed to be the light in that situation. And so if we're talking about music, shouldn't we have more musicians that can sing love songs that we are not ashamed as Christians to listen to? Love songs that will allow you to toast your babe and ask her to marry you. So, so from my own point of view, hello, I'm not a pastor, but from my own point of view, I think that there is a place for that kind of music. I will never be ashamed of yes, no. Never. I will never be ashamed of Don't Break My Heart. I'll never be ashamed of those kinds of songs. But now, obviously, because God gave me the gift, it is a responsibility on me to make sure that I use that gift to also glorify Him. And so I'll sing Blessing Me, and I'll sing Mercy, and I'll sing more songs like that as well. I think people, all of us just need to take a step back and maybe not be so judgmental or hypocritical and, kind of narrow-minded in the way we view these things. Obviously, we're not talking about, I don't even want to name the songs, but we're not talking about, songs that are a little too vulgar. But when we're talking about, beautiful, clean songs that celebrate love the way God wanted it to be, I see no issue with that whatsoever. And I'm proud of the kind of music that I've done that is a testament to that. And I hope that God will continue to use me, not just for that, but also to glorify Him and also to change the country. I think that those of us that are in entertainment are there because God has orchestrated so that we are there. Because guess what? Now, if I stand on a stage and I tell people everything that you see is because of the grace of God, that's more powerful than them. Because there's some people who will not come to church and listen to a pastor, but they will see me. And they'll come to a conference and hear me speak, or they'll come to a show and see me there. And if they see me that with all of this success and I still turn back and I say, God is my backbone, then that's preaching Christ, just not in a traditional way. And so I think myself, speaking for myself and a lot of people here, that's what we're trying to figure out, is how to preach Christ, how to represent God in a very dark world. The world needs God. The world needs light. And we are supposed to be that light. So hopefully more people in the church understand that and embrace that and not try and judge it, or I don't know. I'm going to stop talking now. Thank you.
So, Adora, you said you wanted to add to...
Yeah, I just want to speak to this. I think, first of all, when we think about secular, everyone, in the church especially, we're always like, oh, there's secular music and non-secular music. And I think we kind of need to look at it a bit differently and look at it as, what's considered godly music, right? Because I've listened to some gospel songs that are not godly. And they're not godly because they basically say to people, that God is going to punish you for this or that. And they're calling you out on so many things that is not God's love. Right? And so I would look at it in that dimension of, making sure that the music that is being made, what's the intention behind it? And then what is the ripple effect of it? Because sometimes your intention might be pure, but there's a ripple effect, right? When that music goes out, what happens to the people who the music is touching? So I agree with Banky, but I just wanted to sort of put it in context, give a different context, right, to it. Because I believe that Christianity, faith, loving God, building an intimate relationship with God is not easy. And a lot of times we justify a lot of our actions because it's easier to justify our actions. So I'm not trying to paint.
I'm not justifying
no. I'm giving context.
I'm just telling you.
I'm giving context because I feel like you've talked about it, but then you do love songs, right? So it makes sense. But then I'm a bit concerned about people who will think or assume that because you said that, it's okay for them to go and create music that has a ripple effect, right, and consequence on other people's actions. So I'm just balancing you out. Trust me, I'm with you. And so, so when you make music, I think it comes down to, your intention. So you're saying to yourself, for some people make music and then they're worried that it's not going to blow as fast, right? Some people create music and it's like, you guys are not listening to that music. There are people in the gospel space, there are people in the Christian space who are even making urban Christian music. I'm making urban Christian music as well. You guys are not listening to a lot of the music that we're making from the church. And so what usually happens is that people get frustrated and they start moving. So I think we all have a responsibility, right, to also listen to and support the musicians who are making that kind of music. I mean, I'm sure Chidima has made some brilliant music that just didn't go as far as her making a song that, you guys would consider secular. So I just feel like we have a responsibility in the church to also support our musicians who are creating the kind of music that is godly.
So, Diolo, your pastor, do you only listen to worship?
Here's
my worship.
I love it.
Is that what you only listen to?
You know, it's weird. So, I don't only listen to worship, but now I get really awkward in my, like, if I'm driving and there's someone else in the car, I don't want to pick the song because I feel like I don't know what's cool anymore sometimes. I just don't want to pick because I feel like if I want to start, it's going to be like a song from like 5 years ago. But no, I don't only listen to worship music. I think it's very important for us to know, first off, that the only gift the devil gives is pride. And that he gave to us a long time ago, right? Everything else, and I guess the reason that we often jump at secular music immediately is because Lucifer's gift was in music.
Right.
But the reality is that his sin and the gift that he tries to give you is pride. He always tries to feed your flesh and teach you how to feed your flesh. You can take any single gift that anyone here has and any single gift, and you have a choice. The choice that you have is how you use your gift and what your gift is honoring. Now, whether you're making secular music or not making secular music or doing anything in the secular industry or not, it's about who is your master while you're doing it. Who is your master while you're doing it? And it will also affect how you do it. You can make secular music, like Banky said, and it's not honoring or it's not justifying, and it's not pushing people to believe that they should treat women a certain way and all of that. It's actually honoring women, and so that's what we're trying to do. I think we've gone so caught up with church values and we're not aligned with God's values anymore. Because God values and church values
are totally
sometimes
different.
They're so far apart.
Well said. I'm doing a very good job of being a moderator and not putting my 2 cents in. Before you ask Banky a question, I want to ask everyone a question. It's a good one. So the theme for the conference is Unleashed, and the scripture is about the power of God. Basically, the kingdom of God is not about talk, but of power. Can you each, one of you, just give us an example of how you've seen the power of God in your personal lives? Any personal experience of how you've seen the power of God in your lives as you are next to me?
The moment you asked that question, something came to my mind, like something that happened to me, and it just made me realize. How real God is. Yes, I've always been a Christian. I grew up in church. My mother is a lover of God and all of that. But that experience just gave me another view, of how powerful God can be. We watch. Okay, I don't know about we, but I watch a lot of African magic. I watch a lot of African magic, Yoruba in particular. Yeah, I'm a lover of that channel. I think I subscribe for just that channel. A lot of things happen, and I would think that these people are just exaggerating, But then this thing happened to me, and it just made me realize that these people are actually telling us things that happen in real life. It got to a point. It was more like I was facing the devil head to head. Every single thing was going wrong. Everything was going wrong. And when things like that happen to me, if it's not affecting my family, I don't really get bothered. I think after God, my family comes next. But it started to affect my family, and it became a huge worry for me. I was facing the devil head to head, and there was no pastor to intervene for me. There was There was nobody I could call and say, this is what is going on with me. I need you to pray with me. So it was just me and God, and I had to deal with it, At that point, I knew the next person to call was my mom, and we started to pray. Prayers were flying everywhere, and I mean, I can't really explain how I got out of it, but it just made me realize that God is beautiful. God is awesome. And until you have that one-on-one relationship with him, you can never understand it. And this relationship, I mean, it is not until when, how they tell us in church to pray, you're shaking your head, oh, hey, Father, Jesus. No, it is not that. I mean, it is a lot of times when I pray, it is more of me having a conversation, and I feel like this person is seated right beside me and we're talking. I do not believe in a prayer where, you're praying to God and you're not getting any response from him. So what's the point? What's the essence of praying when you can't hear from God? But the moment you begin to shout and scream and pray, and how do you get the response from him? So I'm talking to this man, to this guy seated right beside me, and we're having a conversation. I did a lot of that, and it kind of helped the situation, and it made me realize that, we say the devil is powerful. The devil is not powerful. He's just cunning, He doesn't have any power. And it is until you give him that power, before he does whatever it is he wants to do. So, that when that whole thing happened, my family was, not scattered, yes, but it was not looking good in any way. It was a very, 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 very difficult time for myself and my family, and getting out of it just made me realize that God is awesome.
For me, my gifts and my skill sets are in alignment with my purpose for my life, for the purpose that God has for my life, which is basically to interpret the dreams of others, right? And my entire life has been committed to service. My entire life has been me being a pillar of support to a lot of the people that God is using in the world to do so many amazing things. And throughout my life, one of the recurring conversations that I've heard a lot of people have is the continuous talk about, Adora, you're always behind the scenes. Everybody gets the credit. The people that you work with, the people that you have sort of helped, are in the limelight. And my recurring answer is that God has always met all of my needs, and that, God is my PR guy, right? The way I look at it is, for me, that's the power of God. It's the power of knowing that if there's a calling upon your life to do something, you can try as much as possible to, try and position yourself or brand position yourself or whatever stories you want to tell. But the reality is that, God is the greatest PR guy that you will ever have in your life. He will always bring the opportunities that you need to bring, that he needs to bring to you, the opportunities that you that are required to fulfill what he has called you to do, and that also there is absolutely nothing wrong in service. I feel like that is where, for me, I've truly seen the power of God, is just in loving God, in expressing all the gifts that he has given me, in watching him bless me continuously for doing that work, and in just, not having to necessarily shout everywhere. I'm thankful that PJ, I'm here on the stage. Again, God will always give you those opportunities to talk to people. So I don't take for granted showing up anywhere. I always believe that there's a reason for that. I always believe that God's power will flow through whatever it is that I'm saying and wherever I am. And for me, that is how I've experienced the power of God. I see the power as love, really, as God's love across my life. And I see the power as God's ability to just, show me the way forward and to give me capacity to be able to carry the things that, you know, he needs me to carry in this world. And for me, that is the power of God upon my life.
I have experienced the power of God in so many unusual resurrections and so many unlimited evolution. It comes to a point in your life where God gives you the secret of becoming that. You have it in humility. You have it, you know how to start things and watch them grow. You know how to begin again. It's a gift from God. When you're no longer terrorized by death, by termination of things. You know how the writer of Hebrews said, he came to deliver them who through the fear of death are subject to bondage. Meaning that it is that fear that something is going to finish. That fear that this season is going to end. That fear that my industry is going to be bankrupt. That fear that I may not keep this job. That fear that we may not be able to replicate this success. That fear is what makes us subject to bondage. And there's a way God takes you through when you experience His power in such a way that it has apparently finished at some point. And then out of that ashes, God resurrects something beautiful for you. And then you get to another point where it's almost like it's over. Everybody says, oh, now he's finished. She's finished. We'll never hear from him or her again. And all of a sudden, a new sound comes out of your death. I believe that that is a resurrection. And that is a gift from God. And I believe that it's priceless. And I believe that all of us have the ability to evolve again. So I don't know if you failed before. I don't know if you're falling. I don't know if you think you've misused an opportunity or something has passed by. Trust me, in the Holy Spirit, there is unlimited resurrections. You can come up again as something different from what you were yesterday, and it will still be as glorious as the other one was before. That is the power of God, ladies and gentlemen. And the last thing I'm going to say about this, when he talked about unleashed, I understand this perfectly. The word unleashed is a forceful energy that pushes you out of a cocoon and spreads you in the atmosphere. God's power prepares you first of all, then he propels you, then he projects you. He is God like that, and he does that for me. Sometimes when you fall down and everything seems to be over, God comes to you at that time and tells you, let me prepare you for a new beginning. And he begins to speak to you about your possibility. At that point, I'm going to say something that is so uncool, but you've got to do it. If you want to have the beauty of the end time church, you've got to have the tongue of the Holy Ghost. So in those moments where things seem like they've broken down completely and you don't know where to go anymore, when you have that conversation with God, get into the Spirit and begin to pray in the Holy Ghost. He will prepare you. Let me tell you something. You build up enough wind, you will be like a rocket that's about to go into the atmosphere. When the gas is full and it is touched, there is nothing that can stop you from flying. If you take the time to stay in your valley and to soak in the power of the Holy Ghost, it will come to a point where you will be propelled. And it doesn't matter who is standing against you. They're going to be the ones to assist you. Because listen, we live in a world where, we're not very strategic. It's a very, very evil world. The moment you carry the emblem of goodness, there's going to be a lot of resistance. And that's why God said, be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. And this is the victory that overcomes the world, our faith. And the faith is in the fact that we've been filled with the Holy Ghost and we break through barriers. We leap over walls. We run through troops. We don't give up. You are going to be projected. Believe me, you are going to be projected. This is the power of God. He will resurrect you 1,000 times.
The power of God. I think this has been a very interesting, for me, life has been an interesting journey, but I'm learning new perspective on the power of God. When I grew up, when I was growing up, I was always very shy. I still believe I'm very shy. And I didn't have a lot of self-confidence in my capacity to do certain things. I wasn't the most book-smart person. I always wanted to be an actor. I never wanted to, dealing with academic stuff was never my place. So I never thought there were certain conversations that I had the capacity to have. And then I started to receive words and prophecies. This was even before I moved back to Nigeria. God would put me in rooms and in places where I'll have conversations with people that people would not know how it is I got into those rooms to have those conversations. And I'll be a leader of leaders. And I just, when you hear these things, it's just like, who? Like, how? Let's be honest. And I came back to be an actor, and the next thing I know, I'm starting a talk show. Now, when I started that show, I was like, okay, I can only talk about the things I know, right? So we'll talk about relationships and dating. And I've been through trauma when it comes to relationships, so I can talk about that. And all of a sudden, God started putting me in having a burden on me for this country, to have different kind of conversations or what people are going through. And I'm learning this idea that you are not going to impact people unless you understand and have experience and know what people are going through and you have a relationship with them. So I started having conversations. Elections were coming up. I talked to this guy. I talked to a fellow George. I was talking about different things, education crisis in Nigeria. I don't know anything. And then people started putting on the comments that this guy can have conversations about anything. And I was like, me? I could never picture myself having the conversations I was having. And then I did a conference and the vice president came. I said, me? In fact, when that was coming up, I didn't want to do the interview. Because I was like, I'm not smarter. I don't know anything about Nigerian politics. I don't know the depths of the politics to have the conversation. So I had gotten someone else to have the conversation with me. And something happened that she couldn't do the interview 2 days before. And so because of that, I had no one to do the interview, so I had to do it. I didn't think I had the capacity to have that kind of conversation. And it started to remind me of the prophecy that God said he will put you in places and you will have conversations. You will not understand how. And so I'm starting to see the power of God. Those things happen so that you have the confidence to step into new things. And now I'm learning how to be. I'll say it so I won't say it. Okay. It can sound wrong. It's the importance of learning to be selfish with God's presence sometimes. Because being selfish, not everybody says, that's selfish. No, your whole job is to be giving. But I'm learning the importance of being selfish in the presence of God because we're very spiritual people in this country. We like to just, we'll speak, we'll skabash and everything. But so many people are coming to the place where they speak and the anointing is there and they're hearing this and they're like, oh, the Spirit of God was there. I just felt so awesome. But they walked out of it with nothing. Because they didn't learn how to be selfish in the presence of God. See, it's one thing to have the Spirit of God in you. As we're born with the Spirit of God, we're made perfectly in His image. But it's another thing to have the Spirit of God on you. And when the Spirit of God comes, the Spirit of God comes and goes. Don't deceive yourself. It comes and goes. And so when the Spirit is on you, you have to take advantage of that moment. The times I've realized I can be in a room and everyone's scabashing, I'll be scabashing with them. The moment I feel the presence of God, you hear me stop. Because that is time for me to start declaring things and calling things and letting things manifest in my life. Don't let the Spirit of God come and you got caught up in the sensation of it that you didn't actually take anything from the Spirit of God. Every time you talk about Jesus, the Bible talks about Jesus working miracles. They'll talk about the hand of God, the finger of God. When the hand of God comes, take something out of it. There is something there for you. The power of God is for you to start to put things in movement. It's not for you to take it. I felt the sensation and you didn't feel the heat of the Holy Spirit. That's great. You left and you didn't know anything and you didn't get anything new. You just knew what it was like to feel the sensation and the tingling down your spine. But we want to see things manifest. So when the Spirit of God comes, because I said, look, this thing, God, the reason it's not altogether selfish is because God has called me to be a vessel. What use is an empty vessel? In Romans 15, sorry, I'm going to be that guy. After all, I'm a pastor, so that's why I was to take it. Romans 15, verse 18, Paul says, "For I will not dare to speak of any of those things which Christ has not accomplished through me in word and deed to make Gentiles obedient." I don't want to be that guy who is trying to bring people to God by something that I heard but I never experienced. if I'm going to speak something to somebody's life, I want to tell you I've had experiential knowledge of God. You want to talk about healing, God has healed me. You see, I want to come into that place where I start to say, so until I'm not going to speak about it until God has done it with me. God, you're the one that wants to use me as a vessel. Give it to me first. I can't give something I don't have. And so we have to learn to be selfish in the presence of God. Like, we have to get to that place and say, God, pour into me. It is time. The thing that you said you're going to do it. When your spirit and your power is there, speak it. That's why God has said, we're in the season as people, this generation of the king priest. The priest is called to shepherd, but the king has authority to speak things. And if you're going to move with the authority of a king, you have to speak things. You're a king that does not know his power, has no capacity. You cannot be a king and you'll be asking permission for things. If you're a king, you speak it and you demand it, and the thing will come into being. So when the presence of God is there, speak the things and you'll feel the power of God. You can't play in the middle. If you want something from God, come with authority, because he has given you the authority. He's the one that gave it to you now. Don't play about with it. Dr. Banky.
Selah.
Okay, the power of God. So I've experienced the power of God pretty much my entire life in very specific situations, and kind of piggybacking off what my brother here said. I think the key, the key I think should be to not get caught up in the sensation of things, but to work on a personal relationship with God. That's what Christianity is supposed to be. It's your own personal walk with God. And I can honestly tell you, I can get very specific. I can take the rest of the evening to share experience after experience, but I'll touch through a few of them very briefly. In my health, I've experienced the power of God. When I was a kid, I had bronchial asthma. At the time, they didn't have any medicine for me. So whenever I would get an attack, sometimes in the middle of the night, they would fill a bucket with steaming water and drape a towel over my head and put my head on top of it so that I could breathe in the steam so it could clear out my lungs. One night, nobody found me when I got an attack. And by the time they came in the room and saw me, my eyes had rolled into my head, my face was blue, I was foaming at the mouth. In fact, by the time they took me out of my house to rush me to the hospital, this is in the middle of the night, I was pretty much lifeless. I wasn't breathing, they couldn't feel a heartbeat. But as my dad was rushing me to the hospital, my mom was rushing to church. And, at the time, actually, your parents and mine all used to go to Trem. And in Trem, some of the pastors live then used to live in the compound. So my mom ran right in and woke the pastors up, and they prayed me back to life. That's the first time. And I don't want to take too much time. The second health testimony that I'll share very briefly is that I don't know if you know this, but in a 10 to 12 year span, I battled skin cancer 3 times. And I'm still alive and well and cancer-free by the grace of God. And I think sometimes God permits you to go through certain things so that he can use you as an example to somebody else, to say this thing is not a death sentence. That even though you hit rock bottom, you can get back up. The good thing about hitting rock bottom is that there's nowhere else for you to go. So now you just look up and believe in God and have faith. And I think for me, faith is the key. Faith is the key. The Bible says without faith, it is impossible. Come on now, you're in church, you know the scripture. Without faith, it is, God bless you. I think that's a lesson that a lot of us need to learn again. Because we come to church and we hear these things and it almost becomes like you're playing back a song. So it becomes so normal that we forget that there's actually power in that word. And I think the key is, can you activate your faith? I'll give you an example. In my love life, for many years, the number one question people would ask me is, when will you marry? And for many years, I tend to march to the beat of my own drum. So I said, it's my business, and when God brings me the right woman, and until that, I don't care. But the pressure gets to you. Over time, you start to feel like, when is this thing going to happen? And I had gotten to the point where I was just going to accept a relationship. I found a girl. She was nice. There was nothing wrong with her. And I just, I didn't feel like this was the one. But I said, maybe, sometimes you just need to, I'm a sharp guy. I can make it work. It will be fine, And so, but I knew inside of me that maybe this wasn't the perfect will of God for me. And God spoke to me very clearly in dreams, which I don't have the time to tell you, that this was not my wife and that I should wait. And so I said, okay, so, that I went through that breakup. And then when I found Susu, I know you shout. But when I found her, and I'm cutting a very long story short, I knew inside of me that this was where God wanted me to be. The problem was, it took her a while to know the same thing. And so, for a 1.5 year period, I was in this, very close friend zone, trying to convince this person that, baby, this is your destiny, And I remember I asked her 2 times to be my girlfriend. And, she was coming out of a relationship. She wasn't ready. So the first time she said, oh, she's not ready. She really likes me. She's really into me. But, she's not ready. She's afraid. I said, okay, no problem. Then the second time, we had spent so much time together. We were so close. We were talking every day, morning, night. No matter where I was in the world, I would call her. And so the second time, after we did the Made For You video, I don't know if you remember that video. So she told me after that video, after we were hanging out one day, that, what? I said, you are not even ready. She said, okay, ask me again. So, wait now. So, I now said, ask me again. Me, I'm a romantic guy. I now planned a trip to Tanzania. I did all of these things. Omo, we got there. I asked again. The girl said she was not ready. I'm telling you, this is the God. I've never really shared this story on stage. She said she wasn't ready.
Inside gist.
She said she wasn't ready, that, she just wasn't there and all of that. Guys, and when you have spent the money, you have planned the trip, surprised with the results, plus cake, plus sparkle, Now, as a man, a proud African man, that moment is very hard for you to accept. And so I had determined in my mind that, what, I'm shutting this thing down, she should go her way, me, I'm going to go back to dating, I don't know what I'm, whatever. So, but then, I feel like, but at the time, I was drawing closer to God, and that's why I said, remember I started by saying it's your relationship with God that's the most important thing. And so I would be praying, and I'd be talking to God about it, and I still felt that this is where I was supposed to be. And at this point, because of the second rejection, I had cut her off. I was like, just I can't handle the friendship. Just be where you are, or be over here. But then I felt this thing in my heart, like I felt it. And I said, you know what, God? I said, this girl is your daughter, Abi. I said, you know what? I'm going to open the door to the friendship again, because I felt like this friendship was one of the highlights of my life. Like, this was somebody that I connected with, that I was into. I knew that this was something I didn't want to lose, even if all I could have was a friend. In fact, I thought it was karma, or God paying me back for all of the broken hearts that I had, the things that I had done before. So I said, okay, we're going to be friends again, but that I am not going to ask her to be my girlfriend one more time. That I would never ask her again. That, God, if you are telling me that this is the girl for me, she must say it herself. I'm never going to say it again. And I would pray, and I would say that, and I would leave it there. And one day, she calls me on the phone, and we're talking, and she says, you're my husband, right? And I said, oh, I've known this all along. I've just been waiting for you to realize the same thing. And, in quick succession, a lot of things would happen where God would confirm what we wanted to do. And I'll tell you why. So when we had that conversation, both of us decided that, you know what, we've done it the wrong way. The normal way, you meet somebody, you date, First of all, I wasn't a virgin before I got married. So let me just confess my sin now. So the normal way, you would have done all of these things, and then you would find out down the line that this is not the person that you're supposed to marry. So you would go through that heartbreak. So we had a conversation one day, and we said, you know what, we've both made those mistakes. And we're at the stage in our life where we don't want to make those mistakes anymore. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to do it the God way, which is we're not going to have sex. We're going to pray about our relationship, and we're going to pray and wait for God to confirm that this is actually our last bus stop. And so instead of starting the relationship after that conversation, we started praying together. So we would pray. She would go. Her mom is a pastor in Redeemed. My mom is a pastor as well. So I would pray with my mom. She would pray with her mom. We would pray together. We would pray separately. And I feel like God was just waiting for us to make him a part of that conversation, because then things would happen. So for instance, I think when we finally started dating, I lost a major endorsement deal. It's a long story. The federal government fined a company. The company ended up canceling like 80% of their ambassadors. I lost a lot of money in like over, you wake up one morning and you find out that 33% of your income is out the window. And at the time, I was trying to build a house. And I said, God, I'm not going to, after I've all of this work and been on TV all of these years, now I've found the person I want to be with. I should now bring her into some raggedy, no, like this house that I'm trying to build, my name is Olubankole. God will help me build my house. So confirm it and build it. And I tell you, miraculously, the income that I lost, God will just start bringing people. A government official in the Ministry of Tourism in another country that I had met like 6 months ago called me and said, hey, we've seen the work you do. We want to work with you. What can you? So next thing you're packaging. The money that I lost from that endorsement deal, if I made it back 3 times in like 6 months. And I feel like it was God's way of telling me that now that you are listening to me, let me answer and do you understand what I'm saying? And so God confirmed it in my love life. And most recently, you guys know that I ran for office. And let me tell you the truth. The hardest thing that I've ever done in my life is run for office. Especially when you're an outsider, especially when you're not in any of the major political parties. But I had this burning in my heart. I had this inkling. There was this fire that kept, over the years, you would have seen me do Enough is Enough and Occupy Nigeria, and Bring Back Our Girls. It was building and it was building. And when the elections came again, and I was looking around and I was like, this is not being done the right way, that this political narrative has to change. And so, I just felt like God was saying, like, this is something that I needed to do. And I knew that it was an uphill task. And I knew that, first of all, I didn't have the money. Secondly, I didn't have the backing. I didn't have the political machine. I didn't have anything. But I just knew that this was something that God called me to do, because I felt like he was trying. Anyway, let me not talk too long. So eventually I started, the campaign. And maybe 3 weeks into it, the person who was supposed to be my campaign manager and the person who was supposed to be my media manager, both very powerful people, dropped me like a bad habit. And they literally just stopped answering my calls, like just wouldn't pick up my call. So this is like 3 weeks, a month into the campaign. Now I'm candidate, I'm campaign manager, I'm media manager, I'm chief sponsor, and I'm spending every last piece of naira that I had. And I would go out on the campaign trail and I would come back and I would be broken. Like, when you are broken, you come back home and you are a shell of the person that you were when you left in the morning. And I just kept praying and I said, God, you told me to come down this road, and I stepped forward in faith. But when you step forward in faith, God will confirm it and he will line things up in your favor. And all of a sudden, I'm there one day, we put a piece of content out. A businessman calls us and said, I love what you're doing. This is what young people need to hear. Do you have an office? I said, no, sir, we're working out of my house. He said, I'm going to call you back. Next thing, 2 days later, somebody calls and they gave us office space in VI that I would never have been able to afford in a million years. I felt like we needed to do bigger billboards. We printed some. I had not even finished paying the balance. And then I don't know if you remember, INEC changed our logo. So like a month before, or maybe less than a month before, they changed our logo. So the logo that we had been advertising throughout Etiosa and all the billboards was not going to be on the paper. And I had not even finished paying for those billboards. Next thing, somebody calls me. I like these billboards that you have, but your logo, what are you going to do? He said, oh, I'm sending you 100 of the same billboards. So it's just like every step of the way, once you step out in faith and you follow what God has called you to do, God himself will reward that faith. He will crown those efforts. And my life has been nothing if not a testimony of God rewarding faith and positioning me and orchestrating me. And I can go on and on, but I think I should stop there.
Yo, okay. So I've kept a lot of them. I think, now, first of all, I think how many people are getting a lot from this panel? I mean, this is amazing to have this insight and the openness. But because of time, we're going to bring it to an end. I'm just going to ask each one of them to give last words. Just one last thing you want to leave the people with. We'll just go down the line, and then we'll be done.
Okay, so I believe that no one can walk with God without faith, and we need this faith to stay with God. So it doesn't matter whatever it is that you're going through, whatever it is that is happening to you right now. You just need to have faith. There's nothing you can do about it. You need to have faith to move with God. God works with our faith. He works with what we believe. Things that you might think that you can never get out of. You just need to have that faith. And then, let me go back to the issue of secular or of gospel music. If you want to do gospel music, please do it. If you want to do your secular music, please do it. Just like Banky said, I also do not think that I do anything that is so far, from God. I sing about love every time. I love to sing about love. I don't think that that's a bad thing, So you can do whatever you do and also keep your faith in God. I think that is what matters. You can do anything it is you want to do, but then do not forget God. For people like me who have a foundation in Christianity, my background has been all about God, from day one. So that I can never forget. Anywhere I find myself, it always comes to me. That can never ever go away. So please, whatever it is that you do not forget God. I think God is the foundation of every single thing. So whether in our different careers, whether it is secular, whether it is gospel, please do not let go of God. Hold on to him because he is your backbone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll just say, as much as we like to think about God as though he's this person that is outside of us, God is actually inside of you. And so just understand that God being inside of you means that you have the capacity to command things. You have the capacity to do and become everything that you could possibly become in this world, again, in accordance with his will for you. And I would just say, be a good human being. So even outside of faith and of Christianity and of, all of the religions, just be a good human being and decide, what that means. Try every day, wake up every day and live an intentional life. We live in an era that just determines what we do every day. It's like you wake up and you're continuously, I see too many people that are like zombies. It's like everyone's sort of living an unconscious life and just moving in whatever direction that the digital world dictates or that, the media moves you in. So I'll just say, wake up every day and make a decision that you're going to live intentionally and that you're going to live in accordance with God's purpose for your life. And it's hard. So I'm saying it and it sounds like it's so easy, but it's difficult. But, just try as hard as you can to do that. And I'll end it also by saying that when I was talking about service and being a pillar in people's lives, the way I sort of look at it is the story of Joseph, right? By interpreting the dreams of other people, Joseph's dream was interpreted. So for those of you who are working in spaces where you have to serve and that you are giving to other people, don't ever lose sight of the fact that that is what you're made for. You know, don't ever feel like you should be doing more. You know, more is relative. That is what you're committed to, and that's the heart that God gave you. So please do not be afraid to serve, because remember what I said, you find your purpose really by doing for other people. So live a life committed to love and to service.
There's a lot of things we can give you as the last word. This is what has been dominant on my heart all week. It's this: we're always either overestimating our strength and our capabilities, or we are underestimating our giftedness, our preparedness, and our capabilities. Each of us will fall into either of these two baskets of categories. But this is what I want to tell you. Whatever God brings to your doorstep, that is your portion. You have to arise and conquer what is in front of you before you realize what is inside of you. The greatest proof of what you contain is what you are confronted with. The power of that confrontation is to make you release that which is on the inside of you. So do not be afraid. What comes to you might seem a bit powerful, more powerful than you. Trust me, it is not. God has brought it so you can see what you have been destined to conquer. So rise up to it. Rise up to it with all you've got. Face it and get it done.
I could say like 100 different things, but I think I want to focus, and this is important to everybody as an individual as well as a whole, but I want to focus on us as a nation. So I think it's so important, and this generation, us in this room, we're the ones that have the call to fix Nigeria. It's not the people that came before us. And it's this vision of faith. There's no such thing as faith without vision. You cannot have faith in something you cannot see. You know, one issue that we consistently are dealing with is we focus so much on the issue of Nigeria. And when your eye is looking, because the fact is these things seem impossible. And until you're able to look away from that and look at the vision that God has for Nigeria, then you're not going to be able to have faith in the capacity of God to bring it to fruition. In Zechariah 8, and I just thought all of this was for Nigeria, but I don't want to read it all because that'll be wasting your time. But the beginning of the verse, he's talking about all the things that God is going to do for the land of Judah. And for the sake, I believe that God was saying this about Nigeria. He was talking about how we'll be able to play in the streets again, and boys and girls will be able to, and old men and old women will be able to walk out. And then verse 6, he says, all this may seem impossible to you now, a small remnant of God's people, but is it impossible for me, says the Lord of heaven's armies. And in verse 13, it goes, amongst the other nations, Nigeria became a symbol of a cursed nation, but no longer. Now I will rescue you and make you both a symbol and a source of blessing. So do not be afraid. Be strong and get on rebuilding the temple. For this is what the Lord of heaven's army says. I was determined to punish you when your ancestors angered me. And I did not change my mind, says the Lord of heaven's armies. But now I am determined to bless Nigeria and the people of Nigeria. So do not be afraid. It is time for us to look at, build the vision that God has for this country. We have to start to say, as opposed to these are the issues, what do we want it to look like? And when we have decided and we know that this is what Nigeria wants to look like, this is what God wants this nation to be, this is all the blessing that God has given us, let us walk in that vision. Because every single person here has the capacity to influence change. Every single person here has the capacity to impact somebody in a positive way. It is our duty as people of God to carry out the vision. It's not about going and holding the Bible up wherever you go. It's about living with faith and intentionality, about being strategic, about being intentional to say that this thing that God has said, there's nothing that's impossible for God. When Noah was building the ark, he had never seen rain. He had never seen rain. It's fun, sometimes you read the Bible, you read the story, and we don't conceptualize this. Maybe because we're in a nation that knows rain. And you imagine that maybe rainy season came, but the flood didn't come. But at least he's seen everything. He had never seen rain. But he had seen it in his mind's eye because God spoke a thing, gave him a vision. He knew what was coming. Hold on to the vision that God has given you, but first birth it. Have the vision. Whatever, I was at House on the Rock yesterday, and my uncle was talking, and it reminded me also of my dad, just different things, and I'm sure the same thing here as well. It is one thing when a man has a vision. It's another thing when you are standing in the vision. I remember, I don't remember specifically because I was 5 years old when they came, and my dad bought the land for the church that we're in now. The money that he had for the church, the money the church had saved over the course of an entire year, was not a 20th of the cost of the land. And then within 6 months, they wanted him to pay 20 times what the church had managed to save in a year. God is capable of doing things that no one would ever see, that no one could ever imagine. And then after you get the money, you buy the land. This is Nigeria. Let's remember what Nigeria was like not long ago. Remember what Lekki was like about a decade ago with nothing going on. Decade, 15 years ago. When they bought the land, it was water. And now you stand in a building and you start to say you're standing in somebody's vision. Why? Because when God places a vision here, it is your job to bring it here. So have the vision for this country. It is your job to manifest it. It is time.
You said everything that I wanted to say. I'm going to close on this. I think that a lot has been said here, so hopefully you guys have gained some value. But I'm going to kind of echo what Pastor Adeolu said by saying this. Guys, we've been waiting on God in this country, but the reality, God is waiting on us. God needs this generation to stand up. He needs the Joshuas. He needs the Calebs. He needs the Davids. He needs, when the children of Israel saw a giant, David said, "Who is this uncircumcised Philistine?" Abinobiso. When they said, "Oh, Goliath is doing so on and so," you know what David said? He said, "What will be done to the man that conquers this guy?" So where everybody saw a problem, he saw an opportunity. The truth of the matter is Nigeria has a lot of problems, but they are all opportunities. There are opportunities for change. There are opportunities for success. There are opportunities for prosperity. There are opportunities for impact. But the truth is, and you check your Bible, check throughout history, God always, almost always uses young people. So be the Joshua, be the Caleb, be the David in your school, in your church, in your country. We've been waiting on God for such a long time in this country, but God is waiting on us. We planted a seed in the last election. We didn't win the office. We might not have won the battle, but we gave them a bloody nose. And we showed them that that vision has started. So let's build now. Let's prepare now. Let's come 2023 and beyond. Guys, it was never about the next election. It's about the next generation. It's never about a job or an office. It's about a legacy. What legacy are we going to leave? What Nigeria are we going to leave behind for the children that are coming after us? It's our responsibility to make the country that we want to live in. And I'm trying to play my part, and I hope that you do yours as well. God bless you.
Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate the wonderful panelists on stage. Thank you so much for the time, for the words, for the insights, for the revelatory knowledge, for the wisdom, for the truth, for the transparency. and taking the time to be with us and share your lives with us. One more time, I appreciate the wonderful panelists you see on stage.